Hey everyone, it's Argonath here from The Right Way. Just a very quick video here for anyone that's interested in democracy in New Zealand and how things are slowly being eroded under this current left-wing Labour Party government, who has a complete majority, so they don't have to rely on any other political parties to push through their agenda. So as you know, for any particular democracy, having an independent media and journalists is extremely important, because those are the people that will hold the government into account along with your opposition parties. But if the media fail to report what the opposition parties are saying, or they kind of twist their words and put opposition parties in a bad light, or outright attack opposition parties and not attack the government, then democracy starts breaking down, right? And then it leads to totalitarian regimes. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen in New Zealand, but things are slowly, by little bit, are being kind of eroded. So the New Zealand Taxpayers Union, which is a non-profit organisation which brings news about what the government's doing, bringing into focus things like wastage of taxpayers' money, things like that. They're not particularly against any kind of either left-wing or right-wing party, but they are against government wastage and making sure that taxpayers' money is spent correctly. So they've brought up a very interesting fact that's happening in New Zealand at the moment. For those of you that are not in New Zealand, and for those of you that are in New Zealand, you might have missed this completely, because of course it wasn't really mentioned in the mainstream media. Why not? Because they are the beneficiaries of the government largesse. In case you missed it, New Zealand On Air, so New Zealand On Air is a body which the government funds to produce content for New Zealand in terms of radio, television, print, that kind of stuff. So it gives funding for people that want to produce content in New Zealand about New Zealand for New Zealanders. It has announced a grant for 110 new taxpayer-funded journalists. Full list of roles are pictured below. At what point does this begin to undermine the media's independence? Well, articles written by these journalists include disclaimer statements. So these are 110 taxpayer-funded journalists. We live in a country of less than about 5 million people. Right, this is on top of all the journalist roles we currently have in New Zealand. And it's not just for the state-run broadcaster, it's for anyone who wants to apply to this fund. So let's have a look at who's applied and got some money out of this. All roles are funded for 2 years unless otherwise stated. So Stuff, which is a private media organisation, 20 community and Pōtiaki roles. So if you're not a New Zealander, or maybe you are a New Zealander, we don't know what that means. Pōtiaki is for Maori related content, so that's for the indigenous population of New Zealand, and typically it's very pro indigenous population articles for that. For Stuff published up to $2.78 million. RNZ, Radio New Zealand, is the government radio broadcast, so very biased. 20 times local democracy reporting roles for 26 publications and platforms, up to $3.6 million. That is incredible. That's over 2 years, remember. NZME, another private media organisation, 15 roles for open justice. Te Patiti scheme for 11 public, I don't know what Te Patiti means, sorry. Just under $3 million. These are all New Zealand dollars. Maori Television, 7 times roles for Maori Television, up to 1.593 million. So Maori Television is television run in the Maori language, produces content for Maori people, which is the indigenous people, and I would say it's pretty much all government or taxpayer funded. School Road Publishing, 1 times role for a women's magazine, up to 190,000. So that's over 2 years. So that's pretty good money, right? Sun Picks, never heard of that. Times Media, 1 role for local matters, 150,000. Crux Publishing, the spin-off, very left-wing organisation, the spin-off, they get money. Ashburton Guardian, Central App, North and South magazine. Then we have the next page, Newsroom, 4 times for Newsroom. So all the rest of these are all private media organisation. Television New Zealand is not private, that's another public one. 2 roles for TVNZ News for 1 year, up to 206,000. So again, the state broadcaster for their state news television, they're getting 2 journalists funded. So, you know, do you think that any of these journalists that are getting funded for up to two years for this, right? If they're hoping to get more funding, their jobs to carry on, so their funding to carry on, do you think they're going to be writing critical stories about the government, whichever government is, whether it's a left-wing government or a right-wing government? Are they going to be writing critical stories about a government? They might say a little bit, but they're going to get really stuck into a government if they're doing a really bad job. I mean, we can see it already in the New Zealand media. It's just like all Western democracies. The media is pretty left-wing as it is already, and to actually publicly fund through taxpayer money more journalists is just, I cannot believe it. It just stunned me when I read this. So, you know, these people cannot be impartial. How can they be impartial when their jobs are incumbent on the government providing the funding for them? So write a bad article about a government. Oh, sorry, mate, you don't get, we're just going to pulling your job next year. We're not going to fund that particular job anymore. So you better write good things about the government, otherwise you're not going to actually have a job. So, you know, this is how things start. Basically, the government starts to control the media. Just look at China, right? How controlling they are of the media over there. I mean, you've got to have your own version of Facebook and things like that over in China. People in China can't access the wider internet to get the real truth about things. So once the state starts controlling the media, then basically they can start to control the population. And we can see that currently with the COVID outbreak. They really are trying to control everyone, get them locked down as much as possible to exert that particular control. Personally, I believe the government is trying to keep everyone locked down and in fear of COVID until the next election, because they know that's the best chance for them to get elected, is if they can just keep COVID going, saying that look at the cool job we're doing, we're stopping people dying, even though we locked yourself in prison, your home prison, for months on end. But that's the way it's going. Anyway, well, let me know what you think about the government providing funding for journalists, and whether you think this is a good thing or a bad thing. I'd love to know in the comments section. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, welcome to give me a thumbs down. And if you like my content, please give me a subscription. It just helps in the YouTube algorithm to get my videos noticed. It would be muchly appreciated. And hopefully I will catch you in the next recording.